Okay, so why do these power games even exist? First, I'd like to start off by saying that power games have been around since ancient history and biblical times. And it's really all about the way that society has been conditioned. Most people grew up believing that they had to blend in order to survive the social dynamics. They grew up believing that they had to behave a certain way, look a certain way, dress a certain way, talk a certain way, and basically mold themselves into society standards, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be accepted. This is why so many people are afraid to just be themselves. They have gotten so used to wearing that mask that they struggle to be themselves because they've been abandoning their true selves all their life. They're constantly adapting themselves to whoever they are required to be in order to feel accepted. So instead of having their own sense of self, their sense of self is rooted in outside validation. They struggle with self-awareness because they don't have their own identity. So whenever they run into someone that has a strong sense of self, isn't afraid to be themselves, isn't trying to blend into society, and isn't afraid to stand out, they get triggered by this. And if you've been following this account, you probably already know that if you're authentic, you're attractive, you possess high quality traits, you have a positive aura, and a lot of positive things about you that stand out, people will be triggered by this because this automatically puts you at the top of the hierarchy. And especially if they see that you get a lot of attention, because research has proven that humans dislike feeling disregarded. So if they see you getting a lot of attention, this is really painful to them, okay? Because the same regions of the brain that are activated when you're feeling physical pain activate when someone is feeling disregarded or rejected. And this can trigger negative emotions in them, such as anger, resentment, sadness, jealousy, envy. Not to mention the people that want power, dominance, and control all the time because they feel so insecure about themselves. For example, narcissists, psychopaths, and other antisocial people with personality disorders. But I am actually going to save that for a separate video because I am planning on talking about personalities that just want power and control all the time. So as I said, this goes way back to ancient history and biblical times. So I'm going to give you guys some examples. So I want to start off with Cain and Abel. This is one of the earliest examples of envy. Cain was the firstborn son of Adam and Eve. He was a farmer and his brother Abel was a shepherd. Both brothers brought offerings to God. Abel's offering, which was a lamb, was accepted, but Cain's offering of crops was rejected. This ignited envy in Cain, and he was filled with anger and resentment, leading him to unalive his brother Abel. Another example is Joseph and his brothers. Now, this is a whole family that we're talking about here, okay? So Joseph was favored by his father Jacob. So his brothers became filled with envy towards him. They plotted to unalive him, but instead they put Joseph in a cistern before selling him into slavery. And then, on top of that, they deceived their father into thinking that he was dead. Another example I want to share with you guys is Saul and David. That's another biblical example. After David defeated Goliath, David became popular among the Israelites, and Saul became envious of him because of this. So he attempted to unalive David on multiple occasions, but he wasn't successful. So now moving on to more examples in history. Trigger warning, because this might trigger some people. In 2013, a lady named Melanie Smith burned her neighbors to death because they were too happy. This next case, you guys are not going to believe this. When I read about this, I was like, what? Ain't no way this happened. I was reading about a girl named Tiana Brown. She unalived her cousin over the shoes that she was wearing. In 2005, Sarah Kolbs strangled and beat her friend to death because she was jealous of her because her friend was getting a lot of attention from boys at school. Now, this name is a little bit hard to pronounce. I believe that she is Russian. Elizaveta Dubrovina unalived her own sister over jealousy. Another example is Selena Quintanilla. Do I even have to mention her story? I mean, we all know this, and I always see you guys commenting about her on my videos, so you guys know what I'm talking about. Rebecca Schaffer was stalked for 3 years by a fan and then unalived. And then there's also the people who were led to unalive themselves by being bullied. Amanda Todd was one of those people. She was cyberbullied and harassed. A woman named Brodie Panlock was bullied at her workplace and was publicly humiliated and physically harassed. And these are obviously just some of the millions of cases in history that are out there. But guys, these power games do exist. So the severity of it can range from mild to severe, and it really has to do with the fact that there are so many different types of envious personalities. So it's not just like one envious personality fits everyone. Some envious personalities are really not that big of a threat, but there's also some envious personalities that will go like as far as like unaliving people. And there's also the other toxic personalities, for example, the narcissist, psychopaths, the antisocial, people with personality disorders, and all these other toxic personalities. Okay, so this is why you should learn the signs of when someone is trying to manipulate you, overpower you, cancel you out, outshine you, or just harm you in any way. Just you existing is already enough of a reason for them to want to harm you. They're triggered just by like your existence, okay? So there's a lot of people that have been saying, oh, well, I don't want to play the game. You know, I don't have to play if I don't want to play. Okay, one-sided games exist. People will still play against you. Do you think that these people that were unalived were given the option to whether or not they wanted to play? And it's not that you have to play, it's that you have to learn to protect yourself, because even if you don't want to play, people will still play against you. So the whole purpose of my Power Game series is to help you, the target, know how to block their tactics so that they don't get to you.